Salvador Dali's Christ of St. John of the Cross hangs today in Glasgow's Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum, and is one of the 20th century's most recognizable and debated images of the crucifixion. At first glance, it reads like a devotional painting, a monumental, heroic Christ suspended in a dark, empty space above a small, placid seascape. Look closer, and the work announces itself as an exercise in perspective, theatrical lighting, and religious reimagination. All the more striking coming from an artist famed for Surrealism. Dali presents Christ as if viewed from high above and slightly in front of the head of the cross. The body is foreshortened and appears to project towards the viewer, arms widely splayed, torso lit as if by a single shaft of holy light. The cross itself floats, unmoored, against a pitch black field. Below it is a coastal panorama in miniature with a boat and tiny figures. Dali omits nails, blood, and the crown of thorns. Christ's body is idealized rather than disfigured. The combination of extreme foreshortening, theatrical chiaroscuro, and the empty black surrounding gives the figure a suspended, metaphysical presence, less an historical corpse and more a transcendental icon hovering between heaven and earth. Dali claimed the composition was revealed to him in a dream and that the extreme overhead viewpoint derived from a drawing attributed to the mystic St. John of the Cross. He also said he deliberately removed nails and blood because they would, quote, mar the image. Technically, Dali worked from photographs and studies. Some accounts suggest he used staged photographs of a suspended model or stuntman to get the foreshortening and anatomy correct, and then translated that photographic exactitude into his polished oil painting. The result is a work that mixes photographic realism, Renaissance like modeling, and the theatricality of modern studio lighting. The painting has always divided opinion, immediate reception, and civic controversy. When Glasgow purchased it in the early 1950s, the acquisition sparked uproar. Many modernists and local commentators called the purchase misguided, even embarrassing for a civic museum. Over time, however, the work became a beloved icon in Glasgow. Accusations of sentimentality and kitsch. Some critics see the painting as an almost commercial return to piety, quote, consciously backwards looking, in the words of one critic, and accuse Dali of sentimental or political posturing in his later religious works. Jonathan Jones of The Guardian famously called it, quote, kitsch and lurid, while also conceding that it may be, quote, for better or worse, probably the most enduring vision of the crucifixion painted in the 20th century. This captures the persistent split around the picture, its populist power and memorability versus a suspicion that it trades on melodrama rather than provocation. Religious and devotional readings. Clerics and devotional writers often embraced the painting's contemplative qualities. The omission of blood and the elevated viewpoint direct attention away from spectacle toward a kind of metaphysical intimacy. For these readers, Dali's picture as a modern mystical icon, an invitation to imagine the crucifixion from the vantage of God or of the mystic Saint John of the Cross. The painting's prominence has made it a lightning rod. It has been attacked and vandalized on more than one occasion. incidents that prompt debates about museum stewardship and the emotive power of sacred imagery in public spaces. Some of the attacks were apparently motivated by outrage at Dali's unorthodox depiction, others were the actions of individuals with different motives. Art historical placement. To many scholars, the work is a key example of Dali's mid career mystical phase, when he re engaged Catholic iconography and classical technique while retaining a precise, often photographic surface and the staging impulses of his surrealist past. Those who study Dali's religious paintings treat Christ of St. John of the Cross as an intentional blending of tradition and modern image making. How this image can change our perspective on the crucifixion. 1. Shifts the vantage point from human witness to divine or mystical gaze. Most historical crucifixion scenes place the viewer on the ground among mourners, soldiers, or bystanders, emphasizing suffering and narrative. Dali's bird's eye viewpoint suggests the perspective of the sky, the Father, or a mystic looking inward. It reframes the event away from spectacle toward cosmic significance by removing the close up facial agony and the gory details. Dali encourages viewers to think of the crucifixion less as a forensic suffering and more as an event with metaphysical consequences. 2. Makes the body transcendental rather than forensic. The absence of nails and blood, the luminous modeling, and the floating cross turn Christ's body into a sculptural, almost archetypal form. That formal distance can permit viewers of different beliefs to encounter the crucified figure as a universal symbol, sacrifice, beauty, martyrdom, rather than a literal historical corpse. For a religious viewer, this can be consoling. For secular ones, it can open philosophical or existential readings of sacrifice and redemption. 3. Compresses scale and human detail to highlight relational meaning. The tiny boat and shore beneath the enormous halo like composition encourage us to feel the span between Earth and the transcendent event above. That vertical compression, vast meaning over small human activity, alters how we emotionally register the crucifixion as something that affects a whole world rather than just a single tragic death. 4. Challenges iconographic expectations and provokes moral reflection. By deliberately avoiding traditional symbols of agony, Dali forces a question. What is essential to the story of crucifixion? Is it the physical torment, the moral example, the theological meaning, or something else? The painting's formal choices prompt viewers to pick an answer, thus stimulating theological and ethical reflection rather than passive consumption of familiar imagery. Christ of St. John of the Cross remains powerful because it is both familiar and estranging. Dali borrows the devotional language of old masters, idealized anatomy, single source illumination, meditative stillness, but transforms it with cinematic foreshortening and a photographic exactness that belong to modern visual culture. That tension produces strong reactions. Some see kitsch or opportunism, others see spiritual profundity. Either way, the painting succeeds at making viewers re ask what it means to depict suffering, sacrifice, and transcendence today. By changing the viewer's angle, literally and figuratively, Dali compels a fresh encounter with an age old story.